W Rosji grozi mu 8 lat więzienia za krytykę Putina. Dmitry Glukhovsky, autor sagi Metro 2033, gdzie opisał świat po wojnie jądrowej, rozmawiał z Euronews podczas międzylądowania na lotnisku Chopina w Warszawie. Zapytaliśmy go, czy scenariusz wojny atomowej Rosji z Zachodem może ziścić się w rzeczywistości.
The only scenario in which Putin would be really forced to start nuclear war is the American tanks approaching Moscow. Then there's nothing to lose scenario, and then he might push the button. Anything else does not justify a nuclear war, but nuclear war blackmailing remains a very important, although right now trivial, instrument of the Russian foreign diplomacy and foreign policy. And every time that Putin thinks that his positions get slightly worse, he begins to threaten a nuclear war or test some new nuclear missiles, and this is what he just did. You know, after Alaskim, he might have had illusions that he managed to somehow hypnotize Trump and recruit him, to divert him from the support of Ukraine. And the recent statements by Trump, including the introduction of the new sanctions, are actually proving that it was not a success. So he's resorting to his usual thing, the nuclear war blackmailing. This does not mean at all that he might ever use it, right? It's just the instrument of pressure on both the American side and most of all on the European side. But, how many times can you claim that you're going to push the button without pushing it? I think that the sensitivity of both Europeans and Americans to these tests of nuclear power are going down, and this is what we see. I still do not think that Vladimir Putin will use a nuclear weapon during this war unless he perceives the situation as existential threat to him personally, to his power and to his physical existence.
Dlaczego Władimir Putin nie chce zawrzeć pokoju ani zawieszenia broni?
The purpose of this war is to eliminate Ukraine as an independent country and turn it into a fully controllable satellite of Russia. It can be invaded and controlled, or it can, because of some kind of inner political change, become just fully controllable by Russia and stop being a competing civilizational project to what Vladimir Putin is building in Russia. This entire situation stems from the fact that the Ukrainian people have repeatedly overthrown usurping rulers, and then the ghost or the spirit of the threat of a revolution is the only thing that actually is considered as a real menace to Vladimir Putin's rule. A peace right now does not help him to achieve it because it just freezes the situation. So meanwhile, he thinks that he's dragging with the negotiations, and meanwhile his troops are advancing. So he thinks that he's winning time. He believes, maybe because of being disinformed, living in this bubble created by the intelligence services, that he is actually winning this war, even if the economy is not going as well as he expected, and with the new sanctions it will go even worse. But still, he thinks strategically, he thinks that he has a decade ahead of him, maybe more. Western leaderships will change because of elections. Public will grow tired because of paying for this war. He thinks that he has a lot of time.
Zapytaliśmy też, jak Rosjanie podchodzą do rosnących strat, masowego poboru do wojska i coraz gorszych warunków życia.
Since the big draft of September 2022, where more than 300,000 people have been drafted, and most of them, if alive, they're still fighting, right? Since then, they have generally largely changed that by paying the mercenaries. So Russians are being paid 2,000 to 3,000 euros, depending on which region they're coming from, with a regional supplement, for a month of fighting, right? And they're getting paid the tenfold for signing the contract, and that definitely pays off the risks of getting killed, because it's more actually than an average Russian man, especially in his 30s and 40s, would have ever been able to earn otherwise in a peaceful life. So I think that they will be balancing depending on the economy situation, because next year half the Russian budget is going to be directed to the national security things. So both special services and the army will eat up half of the Russian state budget next year, which is unimaginable, and it has not been like that since the Soviet time, and maybe even then. We know that a lot of expenses of the Russian state budget are getting cut. The less demand, the less money they will have to actually buy people into going to the army, kill and get killed, the more they will have to go through fear and compulsion. And that potentially will cause some unrest. But they know about it, so they're preparing both repressive measures, and as much as and as long as they can, they try to bribe people into selling their soul.
Czy reżim Putina lepiej traktuje etnicznych Rosjan niż mniejszości?
I don't believe personally that it had to do with its ethnic discrimination. It just had to do with the fact that some of these ethnically populated, like Buryatia regions, are just massively poorer, and so the offer to go to the army is much more attractive to them because the money is just unimaginable. I think that overall, speaking in terms of whether that provokes a tension between Moscow and the regions, what we have seen is quite the contrary, because of these payments that have not been preceded in Russian history and unparalleled. A lot of regions were springing back to life. Also, a lot of the military industry factories that have been neglected during the post-Soviet years and suffered from conversion and suffered from unemployment. Right now, they are remanned, restaffed, and they're getting a lot of money from the state budget. Basically, I would say that all the surplus that would be before just wasted or spent on the yachts in the French Riviera, right now, like, it's being taken and sent to finance the war and the army. And this money is lending in the poor and industrial regions. It's lending with the families who have sacrificed their fathers and sons and brothers, but the money is there. So at the moment, it looks like it has rebalanced in a way, right? So there is no massive popular unrest because of the war, because people have been bought and paid for. Now, the thing is that money, the nature of money is that, and it ends up ending, and this is what happens to the money. It's getting spent, and people never return. And definitely, in the longer term, there's going to be like very severe implications of luring people to death and tempting them with money, and it really satanic kind of like deal offered that they are not able to resist because of their poverty. People who will return from this war, and it's going to be like millions of them probably overall, right? Some of them maimed physically and some of them maimed psychologically. They will be present in the Russian cities. These people will know how to murder, and these people will know how to burn, and these people will know how to rape. There was that hallucinating case when a former businessman came back from the front line, and he found a St. Petersburg architect who owed him money, and he killed him. But if in the 90s, this hard killing would be just shoot and run, like he came out of the elevator next to the flat of this architect he was killing. The architect was with his little daughter. He put both of them on their knees, and he shot him in the back of his head in front of his daughter who was on her knees. So that the war crime execution style. And that's just a random businessman who learned new things on the front line. Completely unimaginable atrocity just a few years ago in Russia. And these people will come back in hundreds of thousands, right? So this is posing a tremendous risk, not just to Putin's rule, but to the future of the country.
Wołodymyr Zełański stwierdził niedawno, że szykuje się na kolejne 2-3 lata walk. A kiedy i w jaki sposób, zdaniem Głuchowskiego, skończy się wojna?
When the war started, I thought, and I was saying that it would last like for a decade. So the basic calculation is that Vladimir Putin cannot really stop this war. Stopping this war without wanted results means that he lost. In this case, like immediately, all the support that he has had as a strong dictator turns against him. We have seen that happening 2.5 years ago when the troops of Yevgeny Prigozhin, Wagner, turned against Putin and were marching in Moscow. And Putin did not have an immediate response to that, and he hid. And immediately, the next day, everybody was speaking about the fact that he's not a real emperor, he's not a real Tsar, like you either project the fear on everybody all the time, but as soon as you show weakness, it's all turns against you. So there is no, basically, the best option for him is to win the war. The second best option is to continue this war forever. Because when this war goes forever, there's an ongoing state of emergency. You can do whatever. So he might say he's happy with taking the entire Donbass. But that would require Zelensky to retreat from Donbass. That would weaken Zelensky's positions inside the country. And that will ultimately increase Putin's stake in Ukraine. So a few years will go by, just as it happened with Crimea, then Donbass, and then this incursion. Russia will rearm, Russia will regroup, and Russia will strike again because it cannot afford existence of a competing project with democracy, pro-Western, populated with the same kind of people next to it, borders. It's the existence of independent Ukraine in the personal life of every Russian that actually is challenging Putin more than anything else. All the other elements he has completely under his control. This is a very unsettling and very challenging thing. So it has to be dealt with. And that's the main reason for this war. It's the threat to the personal power of the autocrat. Now, as long as he's in power, this war continues. The next generation will be able to fully reset it because it's not about Russian national security. It's about the security of the power of this person. As soon as he's gone, for natural or unnatural reasons, everything changes.